The moment my boss turned her head over her shoulder on that sun-drenched beach, smiled softly, and whispered that I hadn't rubbed the sunscreen where she really meant, something inside me shifted forever. One simple request had already pulled me across a line I never thought I'd cross, yet her words carried a quiet weight that made the ocean waves themselves seem to pause. I stood there with sunscreen still on my hands, heart hammering louder than the surf, realizing this wasn't about sun protection at all. If this story already has your attention, take a second to like the video, drop a comment about a moment that once changed everything for you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that second chances are real, and subscribe to Bright Acts so you never miss stories about the quiet ways life can turn around. I had worked under Elena for 3 years. She was the kind of boss people either feared or quietly admired from a distance. Sharp in meetings, precise with deadlines, and always composed even when the rest of us were drowning in pressure. I was just the junior designer who stayed late more often than not, the one who fixed things without asking for credit. My life outside the office had grown small. After a painful breakup 2 years earlier, I had thrown myself into work the way some people throw themselves into silence. Loneliness had become familiar, almost comfortable. I told myself ambition was enough. Elena never seemed lonely. She moved through the world with the ease of someone who had already decided what she wanted and simply waited for the right time to claim it. I never imagined I would be part of that claim. I knelt behind her. The first touch of my hands on her skin felt clinical. I focused on even coverage, on the white lotion disappearing into the warm surface of her shoulders. She was quiet for a long time. Then she turned her head just enough that I could see the soft curve of her smile and told me that wasn't where she had meant. The words landed like a tide changing direction. Suddenly the air between us felt charged. I understood she was offering something far beyond sunscreen, and the knowledge terrified me more than it excited me. Professional lines existed for a reason. Crossing them could destroy both our careers. I had already lost enough in my personal life. The idea of losing the only structure that still held me upright made my hands still. Elena didn't push. She simply waited, looking out at the water as if she had all the time in the world. That patience was what undid me. I had spent years believing that people who wanted something from me would take it forcefully or not at all. Her quiet invitation felt like the first real choice I had been given in a long time. Slowly, I moved my hands lower, following the path she had indicated without words. The sunscreen was only the beginning. What followed was careful, almost reverent. Every touch carried the weight of everything we were risking. When she finally turned fully toward me, the look in her eyes was not triumphant. It was vulnerable, as if she too had been carrying a private loneliness she never allowed anyone to see. We did not speak of it that afternoon. The rest of the retreat continued as though nothing had shifted. Meetings happened. Presentations were given. I sat in the same chair I always occupied and watched Elena lead discussions with the same cool precision. Yet every time our eyes met across the room, something wordless passed between us. The fear stayed with me. I replayed every possible disaster. Rumors. Human resources. The slow collapse of the professional identity I had built so carefully. At night in my hotel room, I stared at the ceiling and wondered whether I had already ruined everything or whether I had finally allowed something true to begin. The change did not arrive in a single dramatic confession. It arrived in smaller moments that accumulated until they became impossible to ignore. A late evening in the office when the rest of the floor had gone home, and Elena stayed to review designs with me, her shoulder brushing mine as we leaned over the same screen. A quiet admission over takeout containers that she had built her entire career as armor against a childhood spent feeling invisible. My own reluctant confession that after the breakup I had stopped believing anyone could want the quieter parts of me. We talked the way people talk when they are tired of performing. The sunscreen moment on the beach became the hinge on which everything else turned. It had forced honesty into a space where honesty had never been safe. There were still struggles. Doubt arrived in waves. Some mornings I woke certain that the entire connection would dissolve the moment reality pressed too hard. Elena had more to lose. I had less to offer. Those thoughts circled me like restless birds. Yet every time the fear grew loud, she answered it with steady presence. She never asked me to be someone else. She never treated our growing closeness as a secret that needed constant protection. Instead, she treated it as something worth protecting carefully, the way one protects a fragile, but living thing. I began to trust the possibility that the risk itself was part of the gift. Months later, the office still looked the same. The same fluorescent lights, the same deadline boards, the same quiet pressure of work that never fully ends. But I no longer moved through the days as a man who had closed every door that might lead somewhere softer. Elena and I had learned to carry both the professional and the personal without letting either destroy the other. The beach remained a private memory, a single afternoon when a simple request became the doorway into a life neither of us had expected. I still remember the exact weight of the sunscreen bottle in my hand and the way her voice softened when she redirected me. That moment taught me that sometimes the most important places we are asked to touch are the ones we have spent years pretending do not need care. If this story has touched something quiet inside you, if it reminded you of a moment when someone saw past your armor, or when you finally allowed yourself to be seen, please leave a comment sharing even a small piece of that memory. Your words might be the exact encouragement another viewer needs tonight. The ocean that day did not care about titles or caution or the careful walls we build around our hearts. It only kept moving, steady and endless. In the end, that is what Elena and I chose as well. We kept moving toward each other, not because it was easy or safe, but because the alternative had become a quieter kind of loss we were no longer willing to accept.